You ever see something that looks totally solid, totally unbreakable, and then, boom, it just shatters? That's what we're talking about today. We're going to dive into this incredible story of a kingdom at the absolute peak of its power and how one single decision revealed all these deep cracks that were just waiting to tear the whole thing apart.
So, how does something like that even happen? Is it really as simple as one bad leader, one dumb mistake? Or is there something more going on? These hidden fault lines, pressure that's been building up for years, maybe even generations, just waiting for that one moment to blow? That's the puzzle we're going to piece together.
All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the actual moment things fell apart. Then, we're going to peel back the layers, dig into an old conflict, and, get this, a super unfair tax policy. After that, we'll see the two very different paths offered to a new king, the one choice that sealed the deal, and finally, what this whole mess can teach us about how to lead. Okay, so picture this. The legendary King Solomon has just died. His kingdom, it's the envy of the world. I mean, we're talking wealthy, powerful, it looks completely unbreakable. And his son, Rehoboam, is about to take the throne. From the outside, it looks like he's inheriting a perfect, stable, unified kingdom. Easy, right? Now, the story you usually hear is pretty simple, right? The kingdom split because the new guy, Rehoboam, was just arrogant and made one really, really bad call. It's a neat and tidy story. But as we're about to find out, that's not even half of it. It barely scratches the surface. The truth? This wasn't some sudden accident. It was more like an earthquake, and the tremors had been building for almost 100 years. To really get what happened, we've got to rewind the tape and look at the three kings who came before this moment. So it all goes back to King Saul, the first king. But it was the next one, David, who was a master at this stuff. He knew he was juggling all these different tribes, and he actively worked to keep the power balanced and things fair. His son, Solomon, though, totally different playbook. Solomon was charismatic, he was powerful, and he basically just steamrolled over any problems. And while he was doing that, he started to play favorites, big time. He began openly favoring his own home tribe, Judah. And look, this favoritism wasn't just a vibe or a feeling people had. No, it was written into law. It was policy. Solomon actually built a system of inequality that became this ticking time bomb right at the heart of his kingdom. And it all boiled down to one thing: taxes. Okay, to really get the tension here, you gotta see the numbers. A census from back in David's day gives us a pretty clear picture. The northern tribes, they had about 800,000 men ready to fight. The southern tribe of Judah, the king's home team, had 500,000. So yeah, Judah was super powerful, but they were still outnumbered. Just keep that in the back of your head. And here it is. This is the smoking gun. Solomon splits the kingdom into 12 districts to collect taxes for his court. Makes sense. But one huge area was just left off the list. Can you guess which one? The land of Judah. That's right. The king's own powerful, massive tribe paid zero national tax. The entire burden fell on everybody else, the northern tribes. There's this old Korean saying that just nails the feeling this created. It wasn't just about the tax being a lot of money. It was that the whole system was just fundamentally unfair. Think about it. People can put up with a lot of hardship, right? But what they can't stand is the feeling of injustice. Watching someone else get a free ride while they're stuck carrying the entire load. This wasn't about being poor. It was about that stomach-churning feeling of being cheated. So the moment King Solomon dies, the northern tribes see an opening. This is their chance. They go to the new king, Rehoboam, and the request is actually pretty reasonable. They basically say, hey, just lighten this unfair burden and we'll be loyal to you. This was it. Decades of resentment bubbling up to the surface. This was Rehoboam's first test as king, and maybe the most important one he'd ever face. And he gets two completely different sets of advice. On one side, you have the elders, the guys who worked with his dad. They tell him, listen to them. Be a servant to the people, show some empathy. And they promise him, if you do this, they will be your servants forever. Then you have his buddies, the young guys he grew up with. Their advice? The exact opposite. No way. You gotta show them who's boss. Dominate, crush them, make their lives even harder.
So there it is. Two paths. Service or domination. And the future of the entire kingdom is hanging on which voice this young king decides to listen to. The words he's about to say will echo for centuries.
Well, Rehoboam ignores the wise old men, and he listens to his friends. He stands up in front of everyone and delivers this just unbelievably inflammatory line. He doesn't just say no, he promises to be even harsher than his dad was. And with that one single arrogant sentence, he lights the fuse on a powder keg that's been waiting to blow for decades. The result? It was immediate. It was catastrophic. The 10 northern tribes, they just walked out. They declared independence. And just like that, the great unified kingdom of David and Solomon was shattered, and it would never, ever be put back together again. So, after all that, what's the big lesson here? What can we take away from this epic collapse? Well, it's a huge lesson about conflict, about power, and about what it really takes to hold people together, especially when the divisions between them are already deep. All right, let's break it down. First, this split was no accident. It was the totally predictable result of years of systemic injustice. Second, the people's anger, it wasn't just about money. It was about the fairness of it all. And finally, the story shows us so clearly that trying to dominate people is what broke the kingdom, when the real solution, the only thing that could have saved it, was service. Let's go back to what those elders said for a second, because that's really the heart of this whole thing. The key to fixing a deep, painful conflict wasn't about grabbing more power or more control. Nope. It was about humility. It was about actually listening. It was about a leader being willing to serve their people. And that really leaves us with one last question to think about, doesn't it? Because this isn't just some dusty old story. We see the exact same patterns playing out today, all around us. You know, those simmering resentments over things that feel unfair, leaders who choose domination instead of service. So, looking at how this all went down, what does this story tell us about how we can start to fix our own deepest, most painful conflicts?